Who influenced your first sense of duty, dignity, or clarity?
Even if you're poor, do not forget the imperative of doing everything correct.
What shaped the earliest version of you?
And then she tied me to the coconut tree for 6 hours for that story or that principle to get ingrained, imprinted in me.
What was that first moment that revealed the real weight of public service for you? When responsibility clashes with comfort, what guides a leader?
Where is comfort if you're a leader?
What does it mean privately to represent a nation on a global table? What shaped your understanding of long-term national security?
You put a gun to my head, you have two choices. Either take it off or you shoot.
What is that one strategic truth that stayed constant through decades for you?
If you don't have power, you cannot exercise your freedom because you'll be at the mercy of somebody else.
What has crisis taught you about poise under pressure?
R&T used to always say, Thomas, if somebody told me that I can't do it, I had to do it.
Some lives don't seek the spotlight. They shape the world quietly through service. Wisdom becomes their true biography, and leadership their most authentic story.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Hello and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. Today is a very, very special day for me personally and at Between Us because the conversation is not about designation or positions. And that's how I'm going to introduce my next guest, Dr. Thomas Mathew. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
If I may take the liberty, your journey has spanned diplomacy, public service, financial reform, national security, quite a rare combination, reflecting depth, clarity, discipline. And I think that reflects within you as an author, especially the biography of Mr. Ratan Tata. I read the book. I'm going to read the book again. And I think every time I've read the book, it changes my perspective. I've actually reread chapters, Dr. Mathew, and I
Sure.
got a different perspective every time. I think this book offers not just information, but understanding of leadership, humility, decision making. I think most importantly, the quiet strength behind a legacy. An absolute honor for me personally to have you on the show. Thank you so very
It's
much.
been
Sir.
my privilege, Santosh. It's been my privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we begin with the origin story. We begin with your journey. And somehow I found it very interesting to link it to trial by fire. Let's begin from the beginning. What shaped the earliest version of you?
First, let me say a big thank you for having me on this show of yours. Now, coming to your question, I cannot pinpoint any particular incident
Mhm.
which triggered an evolution of me.
Mhm.
That's not possible.
Hmm.
It's been a series of events that shaped me like would have shaped any personality
Mhm.
or any situation for that matter.
Mhm.
As you know, the only thing constant in this world is change.
Mhm.
So that change evolves human beings, evolves rivers,
Hmm.
courses of rivers,
Mhm.
geography, and even continents.
Okay.
Okay. So several events came together and shaped me as a person. My mother's influence, my schooling, the place I was born, my friends,
Mhm.
my associates, all together.
Okay.
So it's a cornucopia, in a manner of speaking.
If I were to ask you, who influenced your first sense of duty, dignity, or clarity?
See, there are three loaded words: dignity, my mother. Clarity, my mother. Righteousness, my mother. Correctness, my mother.
Mhm.
Now, with regard to dignity of life, she used to always tell me, and I hold it very close to my chest. She used to tell me, even if you're poor, do not forget the imperative of doing everything correct.
Mhm.
Never deviate from what is correct, even if you're poor.
Mhm.
And she said, never do anything that will take away your dignity from you. Let me give you a small instance. Very surprising. People may not even believe it. This happened when I was in class 2. I think maybe 2, just going to 3. We used to stay in Cochin.
Mhm.
We used to have a neighbor. I'm not going to say who the neighbor is. Very famous personality in the established structure of government.
Hmm.
So his secretary used to be there, and the secretary used to walk every evening and bring some eatables with him back.
Hmm.
So when I was standing and playing, so he asked me, "Will you eat this?" It was a bonda.
Huh.
So even without I answer, even before I could answer him, automatically my hand stretched out.
Hmm.
My mother was seeing this from the window.
Mhm.
So as soon as I took the bonda and the secretary of that gentleman walked away, my mother came running,
Hmm.
caught me and slapped me across my face.
Hmm.
She said, even if you take something from someone, do it in a dignified manner, and you will not stretch your hands and beg in jest. That is her way of thinking. And then she tied me to the coconut tree for 6 hours for that story or that principle to get ingrained, imprinted in me. And she said, even if you are poor, it doesn't matter what you have eaten or what your friends have eaten. Tighten your belt, walk with your head high, and that's dignity. So even today, that rings in my ears every time I think about my mother. Now, that's her said, you can do anything you want, but never lose your self-dignity. And correctness, same way. She says, never do anything wrong. And there is, she had never gone to school, but she came from a very wealthy family. She said there are principles you need to follow of compassion and empathy.
Hmm.
And she used to always tell me, I asked her, why do you say this? She says, never see the tears of a widow. Never see a old blind man cry.
Hmm.
So I said, Mom, what is common in this? She says, they are insecure. They feel lost in this world. They feel alone in this world. So when a person feels that he or she is lost and there's nowhere to go, it is for you to lend a helping hand. And I followed this principle throughout my life. And, when I was an SDM and a collector, I've even broken rules in order to support such people who are in problems.
You spoke about when you were a DM. What was that first moment that revealed the real weight of public service for you?
See, I think it happened as my sub-collector days.
Hmm.
Okay. I was in this place called Tiruvalla where you have this famous, Shabrimala.
Hmm.
If you heard about Shabrimala, it is within that subdivision.
Every alternate year.
You go to Shabrimala. Okay, good. So you have a permanent beer for that reason. There has to be abstinence. Okay. It was my parents always drilled into me the need to use your resources, your powers, which your position would give you
Hmm.
for the public good.
Mhm.
So there's not one incident. I've also tried, my maximum to do good to people wherever I could.
Hmm.
It is like a default system in me.
Hmm.
I was told that that is what you should be doing.
Hmm.
Be kind. And I think I've done that to the best of my ability.
When responsibility clashes with comfort, what guides a leader?
Where is comfort if you're a leader? It is all responsibility. You take a leadership role not to enjoy your life.
Hmm.
That may be some leaders involved in gambling or mafia.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally believe with responsibility comes the most onerous duty. The responsibility means you need to walk maybe a mile, maybe 2 miles in order to provide comfort to others, not yourself.
Hmm.
That's what responsibility means. And especially people in authority
Mm-hmm.
would have to understand the authority is given to them because they have a responsibility which they have to fulfill. That is what is most important.
Because you said this, I'm going to jump my script and ask you this question.
Leapfrog.
What does it mean privately to represent a nation on a global table?
See, I have done that on many occasions.
Hmm.
I sat across a table with the chief of some of the largest corporations in the world,
Hmm.
especially the Ministry of Defense.
Sure.
I was overcome more by duty and the need to serve the nation
Hmm.
than any feeling of elation.
Hmm.
Although you feel proud that you're representing nation,
Mm-hmm.
but then you are overcome by the thought that you need to do right for the nation.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you one example, okay? I was negotiating in Russia
Mm-hmm.
on liquidated damages on for some follow-on ships which we had ordered. I was tough in my negotiation. And I called the Secretary of Defense Finance from Moscow and said,
Mm-hmm.
the person who was heading the negotiation from the Russian side was asked to leave the company.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I don't name the company in Russia because they failed to make a breakthrough in the negotiation. So I called her and told her, ma'am, this is getting morally very embarrassing for me, because looking at people who look sullen because the leader of the previous day was asked to go home. So I called her and said, what do I do? She says, don't be moved by that level of compassion. Look back in India. How many children have blackboards in school? Or how many schools can afford blackboards for children? So every penny you save first for yourself and then look outside the borders. That is also another way of looking at life.
As a diplomat, what do you learn about silence, timing, and presence?
I was not in the diplomatic service. I was in the Indian Administrative Service.
Sure.
But I represented government many fora.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I said,
Yes, I do understand. It's part diplomacy. See, what silence? Perhaps you communicate through silence.
Hmm.
So the silence can be thunderous.
Mm-hmm.
It can be more powerful than many words.
Hmm. Hmm.
Look at the characteristics of my dear friend who I adored and loved, Mr. Ratan Tata. He spoke more through silence.
Absolutely.
Spoke less, very reticent. As a result of which, is very difficult to fathom what he was thinking.
Hmm.
Is like saying still waters run deep.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So silence is a part of a strategy negotiation. Absolutely true. But it has to be a measured response.
Yes.
Not an automatic response. So,
and the reason why I brought out is we're definitely coming to the book, the most beautiful book I've read.
Thank you.
And
thank you very much for saying that.
Yeah.
I gave my heart, body, and soul to
yes,
to be very honest.
And my sounding board is my mom. She's my teacher, my first teacher.
R&T's was his grandmother, his paternal grandmother, Lady Navjibai Tata.
And the one full picture you have in the entire book.
That's true. And the photo was taken by me.
Yes, at the museum. I told my mom as I was reading the book, I could visualize. I felt I was there.
Thank you.
And she said, if that has happened, that means the author has done a tremendous job, because it's great to, write all those beautiful words, but if you can't feel it, from here, then it's of no use.
I agree.
And
That's to move you.
yeah. And my mom ordered a copy for her. And
Oh, is it?
yeah, she received it this morning in Calcutta, and she said,
Oh, she lives in Calcutta.
She lives in Calcutta, and she's going to dig deep into it. We are a family from Kerala, grew up in Calcutta, so there's a great amount of synergy. When we started talking about the podcast, and I thought about this, one of the things I realized is that when an author writes something, there is a piece of him in the book, irrespective of who he's writing, in many ways. And the reason why I specifically brought up that question about what does it mean to be private when you represent a nation on a global table is the chapter, my favorite chapter in the book, and I say this again and again to everyone, The Appointment.
Yeah.
I'm
glad you like it.
Yes. And I know that I always thought of devoting a complete section, but I said, I cannot take Dr. Thomas out of the book. There's no way I can do it. So I'm going to ask you this question. When you were writing The Appointment, that specific chapter, or what did you learn about stepping into a legacy?
Okay. See, The Appointment has been one of the most difficult chapters in the book. That is because I asked myself a lot of questions. Then there was nothing to establish that Mr. Ratan Tata and Jamshedji came from the same bloodline. He was even considered an outsider.
Correct.
Okay. I said, why did JRD appoint? And JRD said that, on many occasions that he's not my relative. I'm not related to him. And I don't think that I will give importance to these considerations. So the question came, you had stalwarts like Rusi Modi, Ajit Kekar, Darbari Seth, great people in their own right. They sailed the individual ships of the Tata conglomerate very efficiently. They had their drawbacks. There are a lot of criticism against them, but that's fine. But in the aggregate, you'll have to give it to them that they guided some of the largest companies of the Tata conglomerate in a very exemplary manner. You have to give it to them. Despite their presence, why was Mr. Tata chosen? That was $1 million question. I dug deep. And after going through virtually every word which JRD spoke about his successor, every word that he had written about his successor, everything which he had shared with somebody about his successor, as a fantastic or a beautiful picture emerged, which gave me a kaleidoscopic view of the reasons why he was chosen. And it's quite interesting. I think that's one of the most important chapters, and that proves only one thing. A lot of people said Mr. Ratan Tata was appointed because he was a Tata. But people did not know that he was actually a Tata. A Tata can be any surname. Anybody can have a surname. That he was related to Jamshedji. In fact, R&T and Jamshedji come from the same bloodline, while JRD actually does not. So that chapter was important for this reason, that I was able to pinpoint the reasons why JRD had appointed. And it, changes a lot of existing narrative. And I was very happy with the chapter, let me tell you that.
Going back to the question I asked you about the first moment that revealed the weight of public service, and my interactions with you, and while reading the book, I could some way correlate it to another favorite chapter of my book, A Vision for the Group.
Yeah.
And I have a question. While writing A Vision for the Group, what did you actually understand about long-term thinking and institutional clarity?
See, right from my growing up years,
Hmm.
let me share some very fascinating stories with you. I grew up, how to explain it to you? My parents did not have great education. My mother never went to school, though she came from a very rich family. My father had to stop education midway his schooling because, my grandfather had a big rubber estate and got burned down.
Hmm.
And they hit upon hard times.
Mhm.
Okay. And we were staying in Cochin.
Hmm.
And only Malayalam newspaper used to come.
Hmm.
Up to class 3 or 4, I was in a Malayalam medium school.
Hmm.
Okay. The rowdiest school probably in India. Okay. I think it's very
Yeah.
important to be in such a school because it gives you a lot of courage.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, and we had 3 houses which my father had built.
Mhm.
In one of the houses, there was his exporter.
Okay.
And he was a voracious reader.
Mhm.
So he used to get Reader's Digest. He used to get Time. He used to get Newsweek.
Hmm.
He used to get Span.
Hmm.
He used to get Life.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about this journal called Look
Mhm.
and journal called Post.
Hmm.
So he used to throw these after he read them.
Hmm.
And I used to pick it up, okay, and read. Okay. All of them. And I've even kept some of them even now. Okay. Some of them even now I've kept them. It's evolution, like sense of duty. I'll just tell you something. I loved Reader's Digest.
Hmm.
So when I was in class 4, and I could not afford it regularly, or my father didn't understand the value of Reader's Digest.
Hmm.
So in school, I wrote a letter to this lady called Elizabeth, who was if I remember her name correctly, who was the editor-in-chief of Reader's Digest.
Hmm.
I wrote her a letter saying that I don't subscribe to this because my father can't afford it.
Hmm.
So will you send me some of the old issues at least?
Mhm.
So you won't believe, after about 4 months, I get a packet the size of about a box, about 4 feet by 6 feet,
Hmm.
full of Reader's Digest condensed books. I don't know if you've heard about this condensed book of Reader's Digest,
Mhm.
and a huge Reader's Digest dictionary, which I've still kept it.
Growing up in Calcutta, was one thing is libraries existed, books existed. Reader's Digest was one of my favorites.
That's Calcutta. This is Cochin. Okay.
I think I draw a lot of parallel between the two states in terms of arts, culture, intellectual.
But that's, since Calcutta was one of the first places that the Britishers established themselves, they brought in a lot of libraries,
Yes.
education. But Kerala is different, completely different. It was not under the British rule, that sense of the term.
I want to go back to my another chapter. I don't know. I read the book again today. I'm up till from 3. Just Trial by Fire. I have a question for you.
Sure.
When you wrote Trial by Fire, what did his early years reveal about resilience and self-belief?
See, Arendt is a very stubborn man.
Huh.
When he's right, he won't deviate.
It doesn't
Like, in
come
fact,
across.
No. Look what he said in West Bengal.
Huh.
He told Mamata Banerjee, and he said it openly. You put a gun to my head, you have 2 choices. Either take it off or you shoot me. He said, I will not move. It is not that he was stubborn for the wrong reason, he was stubborn for the right reason.
Hmm.
And poor man, in a manner of speaking,
Hmm.
went into West Bengal with his eyes open. with one of the most altruistic objectives of bringing back industrialization in West Bengal.
I cannot tell you, sir, how much it disappointed my parents when they got to know that there was such a great opportunity
And they
to
lost
set
it.
up. Yeah.
They lost it. And, I personally believe that if Nano would have been established there, it would have come out on time. It would have been a roaring success. It would have been a roaring success. In fact, he returned to Basudev Bhattacharya, the chief minister
Yeah.
at the time, and said, I'm coming to West Bengal in order to assist you for the modernization,
Yeah.
industrialization, for the employment of the people of Bengal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what it is.
Well, one state's loss is one state's gain,
I
and and Gujarat never looked back after that.
Correct.
I'll jump into defense because and as I was reading up, a chapter which came to my mind was institutionalizing reforms, and I have a question there. What shaped your understanding of long-term national security?
See, I've been, like I told you, my reading right from my childhood, I used to read a lot on defense.
Mhm.
That is to fast. And that's one of the reasons why R&T and I became close.
Absolutely, I just realized that.
Yeah, he's also a man who knows so much about, he was a very technical man, knowledgeable man, used to read a lot. And especially with regard to the subjects like cars, defense. So my perception of defense, I've written what I thought was right on many topics of defense. See, if you ask me, what's your long-term perspective, is that I've said it many times, I've written op-eds on it. Number one, it's very important for India to be self-sufficient in defense. Because you have technology denial regimes abroad. They're not going to transfer technology to you. And some of the largest countries who will export the weapons to India. When it comes to India's security needs that they don't approve of, they will withhold critical parts.
Yes.
See, after the Pokhran testing, you remember we had the seeking helicopters from UK.
Yeah.
And we had sent it to them and they refused to give us the parts. Now, can you imagine how unreasonable can it be? It's my equipment which I bought. And as per the contractual terms, you're supposed to supply me these parts. And they did not. So, long-term perspective, I think this government and the present Prime Minister has got it right. Absolutely right. Initially, there was no emphasis on local production, indigenous production. We need to have a military-industrial base which is strong. And only then can we become a great power. I believe great power does not mean doing what Trump does.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Great power means acting responsibility with the strength which you have. So therefore, you need to move on a fast track and ensure that we produce some of the most important or lethal platforms in the world.
You won't believe it, sir. I was reading Institutionalizing Reforms, and I was thinking about how you shaped your career. Before we started the podcast, you asked me one of my favorite episodes. Another of my favorite episodes, I traveled to Bangalore to meet him. Retired Air Marshal Anil Khosla. He was, I think, the chief of air staff, and it was 2018 or 19 is when he retired. We were talking about army, and I asked him a very interesting question. He said, Santosh, don't worry about that. We are not going to have private industrial military contractors or anything of that sort. I had raised that question at that point, and I said it's important to have a self-assured, self-sufficient military base, but we have to be very cautious about how we, make sure that we don't cross that, which the US does so many times.
Yeah, but US, most of the time, they act very irresponsibly.
Correct.
It is hegemony.
Yes, true. What is that one strategic truth that stayed constant through decades for you?
Strategic constant is there is no freedom without power.
there is no freedom without power. Okay.
That is, if you don't have power,
Hmm.
you cannot exercise your freedom
Hmm.
because you will be at the mercy of somebody else.
Can you elucidate a little bit more on
Yeah,
that?
sure. Let's look at any wars that some of the countries have fought.
Hmm.
And let me give you another example.
Hmm.
Whenever India has gone to war, the Americans have always imposed an embargo
Yes.
on weapons. So do you have freedom to act? No. Why is it? Because you are not powerful. Does America have freedom to act? They do, because they are powerful. So with power comes freedom.
Hmm.
Because you are not on the mercy of others to exercise the freedom which you have.
Hmm.
Because the freedom to defend yourself, the freedom of self-preservation is a fundamental principle and a universal law. If you are dependent on somebody else for your power,
Hmm.
then to that extent you have lost your freedom.
When you were writing Institutionalizing reforms, what did you see about systems that resist change?
See, any system will resist change
Hmm.
because there's an inertia.
Hmm.
There is status quo. There is, like you say, to move anything that is stationary
Hmm.
requires additional force.
Hmm.
So there is always resistance to change.
Hmm.
But at the same time, if you do not change, you're not a living organization.
Hmm.
You're not living anymore. Because unless you change with the changing times and the new imperatives, the new realities, the new compulsions,
Hmm.
you will lose out as much as in life as in international politics or anywhere for that matter.
Okay. We're talking about institutionalizing change. Now let's look at reforms, because I read up a lot about the capital market reforms you were a part of. And as I was reading that, it struck me to probably the most, I would say, in the top 5 chapters, this definitely stands: restructuring the group. I found that to be, I don't even know how you were able to bring out the nuances
That is
so very
me a
well.
lot of effort. My experience in the Ministry of Defense and Finance really helped me write this book.
Yes.
Institutionalizing reforms, that's one.
Hmm.
Then restructuring the group. It has 11 pillars on which the entire momentum moved this organization.
Hmm. Hmm.
And everything was calibrated.
Correct.
They could exist on their own.
Hmm.
They could survive on their own, but they would gain synergies
Hmm.
by melding together. In other words, in part, they are powerful,
Hmm.
but they gain additional strength and synergy by coming together. Let me give you one example.
Sure.
R&T brought out what is the most famous, according to me, thing called the TCOC, there's the Tata Code of Conduct in 1998.
Hmm.
The Tata Code of Conduct defined the way the company should operate honestly and with integrity.
Hmm.
And all workers, all employees were supposed to sign the Tata Code of Conduct.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you have JRD QV Award.
Mhm.
That is JRD Qualitative Value Award. That is for the companies that did well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Then there is the right to use Tata symbol.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, you had to sign the TCOC to be eligible to use the Tata symbol.
And I'm sure there were certain guidelines which you had to
Everything. You had to do everything. And then what happened? They formed synergy and they became multi-legged organ, organ that moved this entire conglomerate.
Hmm.
And that's what he did. And he brought all of them together.
Hmm.
All of them together. And he says, unless you qualify, and then consumer focus was one of the most important things.
Yeah.
And he kept on saying that if the brand Tata has to be used, you have to follow these kind of standards.
Yeah.
Why these kind of standards? He says, we are known for honesty, integrity, and quality.
Yeah.
So if a fan or any motor stops working, they'll say it is Tata's product after all. That should not happen.
And T stands for trust.
Yes.
Beyond.
Absolutely.
The financial reform era, because I think that's important. What did that, I don't know if I'm using the correct word, but what did that teach you about institutions and trust?
See, every institution, like for instance, Tatas are not a business organization. They follow the most important, according to me, the most important assertion of the founder, Jamshedji Tata. What did he say? He said community is not one of the stakeholders of business, but it is the very purpose of it. In other words, business is to serve the community and community is not to serve the business.
Correct.
Or in other words, public good stands above private comfort or private good. This is what, see, I found a lot of commonality in the approach in our state where community is given the position of dominance or importance. In that way, Kerala is a socialist state in a manner of speaking. Let me go back to my my DM days where I used to be also the mayor of Cochin. Okay, you'll be surprised to know in 1994 we introduced birth and death registration in Kerala. That is in Cochin Corporation, which was, according to one report, the third city in the world. You forget India. I mean, India, we were absolutely number one, and we introduced that. Why did we introduce that? That is because look at the practical problem of a man who comes from the United States, because his family may be getting the citizenship, but they have to produce the birth certificate from the local municipality.
Yes.
So when they used to come to, say, Cochin or any corporation for that matter, it'll be very difficult to get the birth registration because their name would have been registered by the grandfather under some other name, say pet name. Like for instance, Santosh, like let's say your grandfather in zest, oh, I got a new grandson, so let me take him to the corporation, or let me have this name registered. So he will say, what Santosh? He'll say, he's like Lord Krishna to me. So he said Krishna.
Yes.
But your father, after some time, or your parents would have liked the name Santosh, so gave you Santosh. So you come back after about 30 years because you're going to get an American citizenship. You come back and look for Santosh. There is no Santosh, but there's only Krishna there. So there are many people who had to go back. So finally, when you put this D base 3 and third, and people, you won't believe, there were mayors and there were public authorities from various counties in the United States who came to Cochin to study our system. And we used D base 3. And then our shout out was this, okay? You don't even have to know your father or your mother's name. Just tell the street you were born and we'll get your name. So, this wildcard search, wildcard, you will get about 8 names and then you zero in and you get the guy. In fact, what normally took about 10-15 days took only about 10 minutes, even the most complicated of cases. So that is the reason. Like similarly in this group also, what R&D did, according to me, whatever he did was first for the public good.
Yes.
And please understand, even Henry Kissinger said that for Mr. Ratan Tata, business was not to make money. He identified a social cause.
Absolutely.
He found out a social need and build a business around it to fulfill that need and give back to the society.
I'm going to jump back to restructuring the group. And when you were writing Restructuring the Group, what moment captured decisive clarity for you?
See, it is an evolving picture. initially, people only knew. I mentioned it. Even the studies in Harvard and the top business schools, they only focused on GRDQB award because it's based on the American Baldrige model. Okay, so therefore they're familiar with it. But they probably did not identify the other 10 legs, and the total number of 10 legs with one as the pilot single wheel, which took the locomotive of Tata conglomerate on a completely different trajectory. So nowhere have they identified these 11 legs of the strategy. So they've identified one and said this is the one which took the Tatas on a fast trajectory. That's not right. It's a combination of these strategies. That's why you'll see I've identified all 11 strategies and said each was equally important as the other. But of course, JRDQ award was one of the most important segments or legs of the strategy.
When we look at reforms, the market reforms.
You're talking about from the context of the book, or you're talking from the capital market?
From the capital market.
Yeah.
I'm jumping, but I see a clear synergy.
Absolutely fine.
Because I feel that there is phenomenal amount of honesty, earnestness, sincerity in the person who has written this book, and that is you, sir. And I say that with, I can see that, I can feel it.
See, I'll tell you, we had Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, who became the Honorable President of India in the Ministry of Finance. He gave me a free hand. See, you'll be surprised to know there are many reforms we brought in. In 2012, for the first time, after a lot of fight with the regulators, we gave qualified foreign investor the right to invest in the equity market.
Yes.
January 1, 2012, and Times of India, 1st January, gave it the headline. And the wrote editorial said, this is one of the largest reforms after the 1991 reforms. I argued, why will you not let a Texan sitting in Dallas invest his money in Indian equity market if he's KYC compliant?
Absolutely.
Why will you not do that? And then, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, very sharp man, great acumen. He understood. I mean, he's been minister for donkey's years, as you know. He agreed. And we introduced it. And thereafter came FPI, a collection of these reforms. And that was a first great step. And all the newspapers actually acclaimed that reformation. And I had to fight for it. I had to really fight for it. Similarly, I couldn't understand why companies would not allow e-voting, introduced again in 2012. I said, why do I have to attend the AGM? I'm sitting in Lucknow. I may have only 10 shares in, let's say, a company like Tata Motors, but I still have my right to say what I want.
Yeah.
So therefore, we introduced this. And there were many other reforms we introduced.
The core of the book and the core of your life, and this is an important aspect of the conversation because I thought through while writing the script, leadership, the lens of leadership. And somehow I'm linking this to Tata Motors, TCS and TASL. I'm just trying to draw a little bit of parallel in that way. But the question to you as a leader, and you are a dynamic leader, how do leaders nurture innovation in environments, especially those environments that fear change?
Read the book, you'll get the answer. R&T is emblematic of it. He epitomizes it. When he took over as chairman in 1991, March 25, everybody thought it's going to fail. He had all the satraps, the old-time leaders. They had Mr. Tata in their crosshairs. Nobody was willing to take him seriously. They thought he was a greenhorn. They thought he had no experience. But finally, he proved them wrong. And they resisted change at each point of time. Please understand, I personally believe that if it were not for Mr. Ratan Tata, this conglomerate would not have been what it is, or would not be what it is today.
Correct.
Let me explain why. I won't take more time on this, but it's most important.
No, sir, please do.
Two aspects. One is that under JRD, the Tata conglomerate was like a flotilla of ships steered by celebrated leaders who were captains, moving the ships in a direction they thought was right. Okay, under JRD. Because as JRD said, I brought thinking people who think independently. But JRD was such a towering figure that he was called the chairman of all chairmen. Okay, that is chairman of all chairmen. That is how powerful he was, not in terms of raw power, but the power of his personality, of his influence. Soft power so powerful that it became more powerful than hard power. That was JRD. So under JRD's leadership, the fissiparous tendencies got subsumed or drowned in the overpowering personality of JRD. So R&T realized this in 1983 when he wrote his famous strategic plan. In that he said the group can tear asunder because there is no unity in the group. There is fratricidal competition between companies. There is no synergy between companies. There is competition among Tata companies. And there is no pooling of resources and technology. So he said this state cannot continue. While it is a perfect structure for synergy, it is working in opposite directions.
True.
So he said we need to achieve cohesion. And in a letter he wrote to JRD, he said that we need to achieve cohesion. We need to achieve unity because there is no Tata-ness in this now. And therefore, he brought in unity. Today, we have a strong center. That is the Tata Sons. We have independent units, but all working together to achieve synergy.
Correct.
That's one. Secondly, what Mr. Tata did was during the time of JRD, you'd be surprised to know that the flagship Tata Steel, in Tata Steel, Birla had more shares in Tata Steel than Tata Sons had in Tata Steel.
Yes.
Now, but because of the personality or the towering personality of JRD, nobody dare go pick up Tata Steel shares and take it away from the Tata Group. No, nobody had. And plus, we had these huge financial institutions, that is government financials, who would not have let it happen. But what did R&T do? R&T brought cohesion, unity, synergy, inter-company flow of resources, technology, manpower. In other words, he made the Tata conglomerate into a united company association called Tata Conglomerate, like the United States today. They're independent.
Correct.
But they're answerable to the center.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Tata ecosystem today, the Tata Group is today something like India and the US midway, having those two characteristics.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Solid center, autonomous units coming together to form a strong central authority, the Tata Sons.
When you wrote about Tata Motors and TCS, what was the one thing that struck about ambition?
See, R&T used to always say, Thomas, if somebody told me that I can't do it, I had to do it. That's
Yes.
that great man, great qualities. You can't imagine, unless you sat with him, you couldn't. Outside you will come up, it'll come out as a person who is very soft, but then very tough, hard interior he had. You won't crack.
Hmm.
The more you push him, he'll push you harder.
I got a glimpse of that in the chapter where you spoke about where it's spoken about the union, Mr. Nair, and how he stood his ground in the most polite manner, but
That's
never
what-
gave up. And I'm like, I was living through it, and I say this with absolute honesty to you, sir. I lived through his life through the book.
Yes. See, the original book was supposed to be 2 volumes.
Yeah,
Abridged it.
I wish you had done 2 volumes.
Oh, no. Let me tell you the story. I mean, I wanted it to be 2 volumes.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, but you need to understand this is an independent book.
Yes.
Nothing in kind or cash was taken either from Mr. Tata or from Tata Group. I suppose you know that.
Hmm.
The entire funding for the book and the research came from my personal funds.
Hmm.
Because I respected him so much. And I wanted the world to know that this work is an impartial work.
Yeah.
And unassailable from the point of view of independence. That can happen only if you maintain arm's distance from the group.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I did. While R&T was very kind to open up all the archives to me. Gave me about 120 hours of interview.
Hmm.
Wrote to all his friends across the world. Okay. And saying that if you have the opportunity or if you have the time, please meet Dr. Mathew. He's writing my biography.
I wish I was a fly on the wall when you had the conversation with J.J. Irani.
Oh, J.J. Irani was great. J.J. Irani was fantastic. J.J. himself is a legend.
Yes.
He is a gold medalist from Sheffield in metallurgy. A great leader. A great mind, great leader, an intellectual. Amazing man. And he and Mr. Muthuraman both together turned around Tata Group, especially the Tata Steel, under R&T's leadership.
When we talk about leadership, there are 2 things which stand out. I learned it from my dad. Crisis, character. And I'm trying to link this to Chorus and 2611 in different contexts, if I may. First question to you, sir, when it comes to this is, what has crisis taught you about poise under pressure?
See, poise under pressure is not a virtue in itself. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't place premium on poise. But at the same time, you place premium on balance, stability. When you say poise means you don't get excited, you don't get upset, you don't start shouting and screaming.
Correct.
R&D was epitome of that. Very calm. You will not know what's going on in his mind. No crisis would shake him. Although the Cyrus Mystery crisis shook him internally a lot.
I was about to come to that. Yeah.
Shook him internally a lot. To be calm under pressure means the capacity to act rationally under pressure. That's what poise means here.
Yes.
It's not a literal meaning.
Yeah.
Poise means be calm. And R&T was, I'll tell you, the epitome of it. He was at the apogee. Nobody could beat him in that. Even when his mother passed away. Very traumatic moment for him and for the entire family. He wrote to the director of the Sloan Kettering Institute and said that, I'm not taking his name, the director had gone on a holiday when his mother was having difficult times. and written in that letter to him saying that had you been there, probably his mother would have been with him. Yet he welcomed him to India. So R&T can be so gracious even when the other person has been very negative towards him. Even when it came to Rusi Modi attacked R&T personally at every opportunity. But yet R&T was gracious enough to go and meet him when he was unwell and used to meet him in Calcutta even after his retirement. R&T was so gracious. I don't think he ever, hid any rancorous intent against anybody. That's what I feel about it.
What does courage look like in silence, not in the noise?
When you're faced with the most difficult moments, if you're able to maintain your balance, I think that's courage. Courage does not mean that you start slapping or hitting anybody at the first sign of threat. No, that's not courage. Courage is to understand the threats, the perceptions, what are the implications of the situation, and act rationally. That's courage. Courage is not foolhardiness.
Yes.
Like Shakespeare says, it's not.
I had just come back.
That discretion is the better part of valor.
Yeah. Because, I learned it through my experience to look at courage in silence and not in the noises around you.
Noises are distracting. In fact, they're to me, it is antithetical to courage in many ways.
I had come back on a short break, 2008, November. I was sitting with Ma and my pop, and we were just sitting and having a chat. 2611. Heard so many stories about Mr. Tata and how he, in the 2611 chapter, I think this is one of the rare piece of writing which looks the human behind the leader. I really want you to talk in detail the revelation you had.
I'm sorry I can't put it in simpler terms, but let me explain it to you. Like I told certain audiences. R&T was unique in his capability to house within himself characteristics of opposing polarity that doesn't meld and find itself in one personality. Let me explain what that means. R&T was a very aggressive businessman. Okay. When it came to business, he was very aggressive. Fierce capitalist. But at heart, he was more socialist than even Karl Marx. Okay. Normally, these two characteristics of opposing polarities are not found in one person. So that is what you found expression in R&T. For 3 days, he stood outside Taj Hotel from morning till evening, walking up and down to see that every guest of Taj and others are evacuated to safety. And he walked around feeding dogs. Okay. And he went to the hospital along with Krishna Kumar to see the injured and met every person who had lost, that is, the family of every person who had lost their life in Taj, met with them and gave flight to their dreams. Let me explain this to you. After this tragedy happened, all the families of those deceased were asked to come to Mumbai, and they were given free stay in the President Hotel, as you know. It's a Taj Hotel. And he met the family of each one of them. And towards the end, he met this lady called Mrs. Sonu Varghese.
Hmm.
Okay. Mrs. Sonu Varghese had has two sons.
Hmm.
And he met Mr. Tata, Mr. Krishna Kumar, and the other leadership of Taj
Mm-hmm.
in that hotel.
Hmm.
And seeing Mr. Ratan Tata is not an ordinary occasion. It's
Hmm.
an occasion to celebrate.
Hmm.
And you'll be awestruck by his presence.
Hmm.
So Mrs. Varghese, whose husband, Mr. Varghese, had lost his life while trying to find a safe passage for the guests
Hmm.
of Taj, but lost his life because he was shot dead by terrorists.
Hmm.
She came and said, "Sir," he said, "first, I couldn't imagine I was sitting before Mr. Tata." And then what happened was, she said that I want to now go home. I've lost everything in the world. Mr. Tata said, "You lost your husband, but we lost a great man." And he told her, "You are not alone in this world. Now you belong to the Tata family. You belong to the Taj family. We will take care of you. We'll take care of your children's education." And then asked one of the sons who was sitting there, asked him, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do in life?" Says, "I want to go to, this famous catering institute in Aurangabad."
Uh-huh.
They had one. And it was very expensive. That was the father's dream.
Mhm.
So Mr. Krishna Kumar said, "Go ahead and study hard. We will see what we can do." So they studied hard. He studied hard. He went to the catering institute. After he passed out, he got a scholarship to Australia, but he was short of 10 lakhs. So he wrote a letter to Mr. Tata saying that I passed out, I got a scholarship, and but I'm short of 10 lakhs, but I'll still manage. Tarrant sent him a check of 10 lakhs. And that boy is today one of the, a big time chef kind of a role in Australia.
Huh.
And his mother is so proud. And then there is another person from, no, please understand, Mr. Tata did not give life to only those people who were affected in Taj. In Oberoi Tower, there was this bell captain who died. His daughter wanted to be an air hostess. Tata paid for it. She became an air hostess. After she became an air hostess, she said she wants to learn to be a pilot. Tata paid for it, and she flies one of the top airlines in this country today. So what did Arendt do? He gave succor to families that had lost hope, gave wings to the dreams of families and resurrected them. That is this man. Very unique. Nobody would do it. Now tell me one thing, which industrialist would sit and talk to your bearers, wives and families and then invite them off to dinner? Because he doesn't know how much more he can take care of them. He doesn't know how to express sorrow and gratitude. And Mrs. Sonu Varghese said, "I've never seen God before, but that day I saw God in him." That's what it is. This man is extraordinary in that sense of the term.
What patterns of foresight did you observe in him as you?
See, the man was extraordinary. Please, I'm going to come back to this again, okay? Sorry for bringing this. There is a newspaper who was briefed by Shantanu, and the newspaper criticized my book for being in hagiography. Okay? I'm saying you're praising Mr. Tata. I like to tell the whole world, this book is more independent than what the book of Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, written by Walter Isaacson, is. As I said, I took nothing from Mr. Tata in kind or cash. I spent 5 years of my time working because I admired him. I respected him. And people say I was awestruck by him. Of course I was awestruck by him. Why not? I mean, here is a personality. Let me ask you a question. When you see a top leader, won't you be awestruck?
Absolutely.
I will be awestruck. I'm
Mm.
not trying to say that I'm such a great man that I won't be awestruck. And people said that, R&T did not approve it. R&T was not expected to approve this book. If it is an approved book, it should have been a commissioned book. I'd have taken 50, 60 crores from him. You understand?
Yeah.
So that is what I'm trying to say. This book is praising Tata because he deserves it, for God's sake. I have not even stayed one day in Taj. And I told Mr. Tata, Mr. Tata himself asked me, Thomas, why don't you even stay there? I said, Taj, I'm not going to stay in Taj because I don't want somebody to say that I stayed in Taj free of cost, had your pink champagne and whatever, and was sleeping in chambers. No. I wanted to maintain that independence. So therefore, I've criticized you where I thought you were wrong. For instance, you stayed away from the selection committee during the selection of Cyrus Mystery. And I said, that was a great mistake on your part. I said, you owed it to the millions of stakeholders in this country, shareholders of your companies. And by keeping away, you took away the weight of your wisdom in making the proper selection.
Yeah.
So I think that man requires, why, let me tell you, this is a point which hurts me a lot. I'll say it openly. Mint, the newspaper, 2 articles, one after the other, says it's a hagiography. For God's sake, I've quoted Henry Kissinger saying that Mr. Tata comes within the first 2% bracket of the industrialists of this world. Mr. Henry Kissinger, I personally interviewed him. He says the man is unique. And I have been less effusive in my praise of Tata than Mr. Kissinger. If you blame Kissinger, then I'm very happy to take the blame myself.
I think President Nixon and Kissinger shaped foreign policy,
It's a
not
great
just for the
combination.
US, but around the world. Once again, I missed out the opportunity for being a fly on the wall in that conversation. If I were to ask you, and once again, I would say I'm not trying to draw the parallels, but I see your life and the story you shared when we started this conversation about your mom being your biggest inspiration. Mentor, inspiration. From your perspective, what is that principle that has stayed constant in every role that you performed, and the principle which stayed close to Mr. Tata?
See, I think never hurt people. Whenever you are in a position to help. Be kind. I think there is more power in being kind than being unkind.
So true.
The way I look at it. Yeah. The capacity not to exercise your power to the harm of another is the biggest power that you're exercising. If I've made myself clear there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it is.
This, to me,
R&T's 2 buddies, as they call it. His friends who served him for 35 years, Rajan and Subbiah, they considered them to be God. And I interviewed his personal peon in Elphinstone building. He says he's my God. It's not me. Everybody says that he's my God. People who have come close to him feel that the kind of things he has done for the people and the society. I mean, he's virtually an incarnation of that in many forms. And why not? He's like a philosopher king of Plato.
At business schools and at different forums when I speak, we talk about different forms of leadership. And I always believe that, I mean, people call it by names now, servant leadership, but the act of service, the way you serve, is the truest form of leadership. If
that is what Jamshedji symbolized.
Yeah.
That is what he was emblematic of. Same with Mr. R&T.
So if I were to ask you what changed you more, and I know you've answered this through the format, but what's changed you more, power or responsibility?
See, my father used to always tell me, whatever God has given you as an authority, it is for service and not for your arrogance. So the responsibility pains you.
Hmm.
The responsibility casts a heavy duty on you.
Hmm.
And the feeling at night when you go to sleep that have you fulfilled your responsibilities to the best of your capabilities? Have you made others' life better in
Hmm.
whichever small way you can?
Hmm.
Maybe your driver's life, maybe your buddy's life at home, or have a small farm. Whether the man who's working in the farm, the guy, have you made his life better? I mean, I think that brings joy. To see smile on people's face brings joy. Otherwise, what is? What is power? Power is in raw form. Don't look at the 14th century power where you cut somebody's head. That's not power. That is barbaric exercise of somebody's brute force.
Hmm.
No. You know, what was Mahatma Gandhi's power? Or what was Mahatma Gandhi's fame on account of? His concern for the people, concern for the nation, concern for the society, concern for the marginalized makes him almost like a god.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, like for instance, I don't know how to explain it to you. It will sound, I don't know how it sound, but I have a photograph of Mahatma Gandhi in my study room.
Hmm.
I've got it by the side of Jesus Christ, and I've got a Hindu deity and Buddha also there. That's the way I feel about them.
Hmm.
So it's my personal feeling.
Right.
And that's how I believe that power is something crude.
Hmm.
Responsibility is divine. Exercise of it in the right way is godliness.
I love that. Just superb. A leader like no other is a chapter which changed my perspective of leadership. What is that one essence of leadership that stayed with you when you were writing this book and when you interacted with him? That one essence.
The capacity for empathy and compassion.
And we need so much of that today.
We need only that.
Yeah.
We only need that. And that's exactly what R&T symbolized.
Hmm.
That's what makes him great, for God's sake. And I'm happy to say it 100 times. You call it hagiography, you call it whatever you want. The man deserved it. I'm happy to say it. I don't care what people say that, you're always praising him. I'm praising him because he deserves praise and some others don't.
Hmm. Hmm.
As you say, it's a praise well deserved.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt regarding it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that the book is written, the book is out, what are the questions you find yourself exploring within and outside of you too?
See, I don't know how he was able to succeed in the light of the opposition that he faced.
Hmm.
There was very powerful opposing forces against him.
Hmm.
The circumstances conspired against him.
Hmm.
In 1991, there was this economic reforms and the buffeting winds of economic reforms, and Indian capitalism was characterized by cronyism and corruption.
Hmm.
How is declaration that Tatas will stand separate as an island of honesty and integrity in a sea of turbulence and corruption and succeed? It took a lot of courage,
Hmm.
and he did it. And therefore became a lodestar for the nation and the world.
Hmm.
And what did he establish for us? That you don't have to be corrupt to succeed. Okay? You don't have to be immoral to succeed.
Hmm.
You don't have to be unethical to succeed. And he proved one thing. It pays to be ethical and right. And therefore, he took Tata's from $5.43 billion turnover top line go to $100 billion. It's about 1,742%, the highest growth among all large conglomerates across the world.
Hmm.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
And I dare say it, give it to him. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if people say that, I'm praising you. It doesn't matter. Numbers speak for themselves. And let me tell you something. Ian, the Tata Group grew at a time. It's so huge today. They employ about 1 million people. They're in about 100 countries. Their products are sold in 150 countries of the world. $180 billion, almost 5.4% of India's GDP. And when it took over, it was only about 1.87 or 1.83%. He's taken it to about during his time, brought to 5.7% of the GDP. I'm talking about the turnover. Phenomenal growth. And that too, without compromising standards. And he has said it many times. We could have grown manyfold, much faster, but then we would have become another banal organization like many others.
What a nuanced way of looking at things.
That is because, please understand, the group exists for upliftment of society. So therefore, if you engage in unethical, immoral ways, you are destroying the very essence of the foundation for which you exist. See, if you are existing for the society and if you are engaging in corruption, then you are eroding the very value which you say you want to inculcate in the society for the overall growth of the society, for the long-term growth of the society. I suppose you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
So that is why. Because if you're working toward the welfare of the society, you cannot engage in corruption. Because if you engage in corruption, you're working against the welfare of the society, long-term welfare of the society.
Growing up in Calcutta, there was one side to it where we had tremendous amount of power outages, which allowed my father, mother, me, and my brother to engage in books, reading, and growing up. During the period of the late 80s, I think around that time, I remember we were kids. My dad spoke about President Reagan, his leadership style. And many years later, I asked him, you always used to discuss about President Reagan a lot. And another leader he used to speak a lot about was JFK from a global leadership perspective. So I asked him once, what stood so much for you about Reagan? He said, more than anything else, being a voice of hope and optimism. And because he said that matters, especially when you're going through turbulent times, crises. Do you believe that?
100%. You know what Reagan did for the American society? He brought them out. He brought the nation out of the trauma that enveloped the nation after the Vietnam crisis.
Yes.
He gave Americans the reason to hope for a better future.
Yeah.
That is what a leader is.
The comfort in the voice, that making
that there is hope in the future.
Okay.
That is what is most important.
My mother asked me a question when I told her that I'm about to write my book. 4 years back, I started writing and finally completed. And she asked me a question which, if I may ask you,
please.
Are you writing to understand the world or to understand yourself?
I'm going to give you a difficult answer.
Sure.
I am trying to understand the world for people to understand the world.
Okay. That's...
What did I write about R&T for? I wrote about R&T because I wanted the people to understand the man he was and the principles he held close to his heart and he adhered to unflinchingly. Because that gives hope for the society. Tell the society that to be right is right and not wrong. To be correct is the right way to succeed. And long-term success only depends on being right and not wrong. So therefore, you write for understanding the world and for making to your, in your own way, in your very humble way, to tell the society what is that is good. And what is that, especially in this book, what is good for the society and what he symbolized.
What truth would you want your next book to leave behind? Are you writing another one?
On the 13th presidency, on Mr. Pranab Mukherjee's 13th presidency, Yes, it is written and kept. I'm just polishing it.
Wonderful. So are we the first? Is this the first platform where you're sharing this?
More or less.
Thank you. A very interesting person to write about.
Great man again.
Yeah.
Great
Fantastic.
man.
If you could quickly take us through the journey while writing this book, especially the world leaders.
It was tough. Let me tell you something. It was very difficult. Number one, see, when you write about a man like Mr. Tata, where do you start?
Hmm.
Do you start with Nusarwanji Tata? Do you start with Jamshedji Tata? Do you start with Dorabji Tata?
Hmm.
Do you start with Sir Ratan Tata? Where do you start? Because R&D's story is incomplete if you start only after the birth of R&D.
Hmm.
That's why if you see, I've started the book with the torpedo.
Hmm.
How SS Arabia
Hmm.
gets sunk, torpedoed, and history is rewritten because, in a manner of speaking, that Sir Ratan Tata's death got hastened because of the shock and cold and the bitter weather that affected him after this episode. And then, interestingly, Palak's son in the Parsi term.
Mhm.
A boy is adopted to look after the Uthamnu ceremony.
Mhm.
And therefore Jamshedji's, and therefore Ratan Tata's father, Neville Tata, was adopted from an orphanage.
Hmm.
So that is what it is. And that's how things turn. And that's how the world sees the evolution of a man was considered completely disconnected from the Tata family.
Hmm.
And that is what you see today.
We have a very special section in our podcast. We call it the rapid fire. I'm calling it the Statesman edition. And they will be quick, but you don't have to. I'm making an exception. You don't have to.
Please,
With answers.
should. You will get shot faster than you speak. Let me tell you that. You'll get shot you'll get shot faster than you speak. Go ahead.
So I'm calling it the Statesman's edition.
Go on. Shoot.
And the answers can be
You'll
long.
be told no lies. Go on, shoot. I love
One decision that shaped who you are.
the decision to be right, correct, and do all what's possible to make somebody else's life better.
One belief you changed
Within society or what?
within yourself.
Okay. Belief I change is that to be right is correct, and being correct makes a lot of difference in society and to yourself and to your family.
One mistake that taught you the most.
Never give up.
Mhm. One moment of service you will never forget.
Oh, that's breaking the rule for an old man whose house was being virtually captured by hooligans.
Hmm.
I broke all the rules and issued orders under sections which really should not have been employed for such purpose, but I think I did it right because there was no other recourse for helping that man. And he was a poor man, not a poor man in the sense of finances, but he was a karta of a Brahmin family. And he was karta of a family where you had about 60 to 80 members of that family. And they were being threatened by a property dealer who wanted to take over that house for commercial exploitation.
Hmm.
And therefore, if it would have become a civil case, it would have lasted beyond the 20, 30, 40 years. So I used some sections under CRPC to stop him and give reprieve to this family.
One value young India must hold on to.
Work hard and work for the right reason.
One word for Sir Ratan Tata.
One word.
Yes. I know it's hard to capture. but
No. Empathy.
One question you wish you had asked him.
Nothing. I asked him everything under the sun. Everything under the sun. From his girlfriends to his weaknesses, the time he spent dating his first girlfriend. I mean, true, steady girlfriend who wanted to get married. And I said, you were prohibited from entering her house, but I was told that you were smart enough to break the rules without anybody knowing. I asked him everything. And believe me, I loved him so much. He told me everything in his life. Everything in his life. I don't think there's anything he kept away from me. And all recorded, okay?
This has been a very special conversation for me. Very, very special.
I've exhausted your questions.
I think the questions can go on for a very long time,
Okay.
but thank you for this conversation.
It's my pleasure.
I think across governments, diplomacy, defense, financial systems, and writing, what I realized just by my interactions and reading up on you is that the three things you've carried within you is clarity, restraint, and purpose, especially the example you gave just now in the rapid fire. I think you just did not share the story behind the roles you have taken on, but also, Mr. Tata, through your book, the values that guided your decision, his decision. Because, goodness can only come when there is goodness from within. And I think some of the characteristic traits you shared about Mr. Tata is reflective of also who you are as a person. And I'm not saying this just because you're my guest.
That must be one of the reasons why he trusted me so much.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. That's why.
See, the first person for whom the entire Tata server in Tata Sons was open to.
Yes,
I could access any record.
correct. I think the lessons that you learned in your personal and professional journey and your conversations with Mr. Tata also shaped and made you understand leadership and the principles that embodied him. So I think,
I understood principled leadership.
yes, and this conversation, and this is not a part of my script, is what I learned is your reflections on Mr. Tata and your personal reflections. I just realized that service is not a designation, it's a mindset. And thank you for that. Thank you so much for that.
Service is a pious duty.
Yeah.
Everybody in responsibility would have to perform to his or her own best capability.
After carrying on this podcast for 2 years as an independent podcast, when I formed my company last month, there's one thing which my mom said, because, we'll be building a team now. She said, leadership is not loud, it's steady. Always remember that. And kind. And you taught me that. Your book has taught me that. And I hope that this book
This is what I wanted people to understand, not what I taught, what R&T set as an example
Absolutely.
for the entire world and world recognized.
And one more thing, because my podcast, our podcast between us, and I say this with absolute humility, our studio head is here, but this is not about interviews. This is about stories. And I always say this on my podcast, that we all tell stories, and the most important story is the one we tell ourselves. And that's why between us, I think from your book, I've learned that storytelling, when told with sincerity, it becomes a form of service. And what you've done through this book is a form of service. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Bring out his thoughts, his principles, what he believed,
Correct,
to the people, and say that's the way to lead life.
I cannot imagine how much you would have endured. I don't know if it's the right word, but it's definitely a testament to the sincerity, because you carried the weight of responsibility, research, and respect, because we are not talking about any other person. You're talking about Ratan Tata. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It has been my absolute honor to listen, learn, and share this space with you, sir. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
That's it from this very special episode with Dr. Thomas Mathew. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for watching. And as I always say, stories are the most important aspects of our life, and how we tell those stories shape who we become. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay curious. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. The producer is Santosh Kumar, and the associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.